Welcome. I'm so incredibly glad you're here with us today because we are embarking on a deep dive that honestly has the potential to completely shift how you see yourself.
And really how you see the entire universe around you.
Yeah, exactly. Today we have a stack of notes and excerpts from a deeply philosophical, almost mystical text. It's a dense
Oh,
read,
it's absolutely packed.
right? Packed with these profound ideas about identity, the nature of consciousness, and the cosmic forces that shape our reality. And the mission for this deep dive is to decode this rather intimidating text.
To extract the most practical, actionable insights it offers. Because it's not just theory.
Exactly. I mean, we want to figure out how to peel back the layers of who we are not so that we can finally discover who we truly are.
It really is a remarkable piece of writing. It doesn't just offer, abstract philosophical musings. It actually outlines a specific, almost surgical framework for deconstructing human existence.
Surgical is a great word for it.
Yeah, it challenges a lot of the fundamental assumptions we make about our identity on a daily basis.
Okay, let's unpack this. The text introduces a massive core premise right out of the gate. It basically
Ah.
says, chip away who you are not, and you will find your true essence.
Right.
It treats human identity almost like a block of marble where we have to forcefully sculpt away the excess to find the masterpiece inside.
And it sets a very clear analytical foundation for what that masterpiece actually is. The text argues that human beings are not just isolated, random individuals wandering around on a rock in space.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, instead, it defines you and everyone else as a fractal of God, or what it calls the source.
A fractal, like the
And
mathematical concept, where a geometric pattern repeats, meaning the smallest micropiece contains the exact same properties as the massive macro whole.
that is the exact implication.
How does a math concept map onto human identity in this text, though?
Well, the text specifically defines this fractal as your spirit. That is your true essence. You are a microscopic, identical reflection of the ultimate macro creator. And once the text establishes this, it introduces what I would call its primary rule of operation. Honor your spirit, and it will honor you.
So it's a reciprocal relationship.
Exactly. But to get to that point of mutual honoring, you first have to know who that true essence actually is.
And according to the text, the only way to figure out who you are is by figuring out who you are not first.
Right, the chipping away.
Yeah, it takes this fascinating deconstructive approach to self-discovery, making two very bold, very blunt claims right at the beginning. Number one, you are not your body. And number two, you are not your mind.
What's fascinating here is the specific reasoning the source provides for these claims. It doesn't just say you aren't your body as some sort of vague spiritual metaphor.
Right, it's more analytical than that.
Very much so. It argues that you are not your body because deep down, your physical form is changing constantly. Your cells are regenerating, you age, you experience sickness and health.
I mean, I see the logic, but isn't it genuinely terrifying to think that literally everything you consider to be you is just temporary?
It can be unsettling, sure.
And if I apply that same logic to the mind, it gets even more destabilizing.
But the text absolutely applies that exact same logic to the mind. You are not your mind because your thoughts, your moods, your deeply held opinions, your emotional reactions, they are in a state of perpetual flux.
Always changing.
Right. Therefore, according to the text, anything that is subject to constant change cannot possibly be your true, unshakable essence.
So if I'm not this physical body sitting here, and I'm not the stream of thoughts running through my head right now, what on earth am I?
The big question.
The text highlights what we actually are with a beautiful phrase. It says, we are the stillness behind.
The stillness behind.
I just want you, listening to this right now, to let that sink in for a second. The stillness behind. But there is a massive caveat here, isn't there?
There is. The source emphasizes that you cannot just read that phrase, nod your head, and suddenly understand it.
You can't just intellectualize it.
No, intellectual understanding simply isn't enough for this source material. It demands experiential understanding. You can only truly know this through what it calls profound personal experience.
Profound personal experience.
Yes, and that experience only begins when you start actively disidentifying with all the things you are not. You have to break the ingrained habit of believing you are your physical form or your racing thoughts.
Let's connect this right to you, the listener. Think about your own day-to-day life. How often do you say, I am stressed, or I am tired, or I am angry?
We do it all the time.
We literally fuse our entire identity with a temporary physical or mental state. The text's call to find the stillness behind is so profoundly relatable because our modern world is anything but still.
It requires a deliberate, active process to separate from that noise. And thankfully, the source doesn't just leave us with the abstract concept of
Right,
stillness.
it gives us homework.
It does. It provides a highly specific deconstructive process for what it calls integration. It tells us exactly how to chip away the false layers so that your fractal of the source can shine.
So how do we get this profound experience? The text demands we start in the basement of our psyche. The first major step is integrating the shadow self.
The shadow work.
Yeah, the text instructs us to acknowledge the parts of ourselves that we've deeply repressed. It specifically calls out things like anger, deep-seated insecurities, or what it categorizes as darker traits.
This raises an important question, though. Why would a supposedly mystical text want us to focus on our darker traits?
It seems counterintuitive to traditional spirituality.
Exactly. But the text provides a compelling psychological and spiritual rationale that aligns closely with modern therapeutic practices. It argues that bringing these repressed traits into your conscious awareness prevents them from controlling you.
Because when they operate in the dark, they run the show.
Yes, when your anger or your jealousy operates in the dark, they leak out passively. When you pull them into the light and own them, you disarm them.
There's a deeply powerful quote from the source here that completely reframes self-improvement. It says that integrating the shadow self leads to wholeness rather than just goodness.
Wholeness rather than just goodness.
If we were doing a quick takeaway here, it would be stop trying to be purely positive. Rejecting the negative just creates blind spots. Accept the entire spectrum of who you are so you can establish real boundaries.
That is a crucial takeaway, because once you stop fighting those darker, repressed traits, you inevitably run into a new problem.
The face you show the world.
Yes. Step 2. The text calls this the persona, and it attacks the concept with incredible precision. It doesn't just rehash standard psychological definitions of a social mask.
It goes deeper.
It actively targets the persona as a shield for the ego.
It's the incredibly curated LinkedIn profile you maintain, or the flawless aesthetic you try to project on social media.
The masks we wear to survive.
It's the exhausting, oh, I'm the reliable one, or I'm the funny one labels we use to survive family gatherings.
The text emphasizes that recognizing this shield is absolutely crucial. Why? Because the shield is heavy, and more importantly, the shield is not you.
It's this metal you're carrying around.
Right. If you spend your whole life polishing the shield and mistaking it for the person holding it, you remain completely cut off from your spirit.
Which brings us to the next layer of chipping away, step 3. And it contains one of my absolute favorite phrases from this entire text.
It is a great phrase.
The source tells us we need to aggressively chip away at the heavily latched, thick lifestyle. Just listen to those words. A heavily latched, thick lifestyle.
It really paints a picture.
The text gives specific examples of what this looks like in our inner monologue. It's the rigid mentalities where we say, I only wear this, I only live like that, I only go to such places.
It is the calcification of identity around preferences and habits. When your lifestyle becomes thick and heavily latched, you become trapped by your own tastes.
So what's the fix?
The solution the text offers here is what we might call a preference audit. It asks you to temporarily step back from these habitual lifestyles, and note the word temporarily.
I love that clarification. It isn't saying you can never enjoy your preferences again.
No, not at all.
But I think about my own ridiculous attachment to my morning routine. If I don't get my highly specific, totally overpriced, iced oat milk shake and espresso, I tell myself, I'm just not me today. I've literally latched my identity to a beverage.
That is the exact trap the text is highlighting. You need to see which parts of your identity are completely tied up in external things and which parts are actually intrinsic to your spirit.
So I can keep drinking the coffee.
You don't have to give up your routines permanently, but you must prove to yourself that your essence survives perfectly intact without them.
You realize you don't actually need the coffee to be a complete human being. You just prefer it.
Exactly.
Once you loosen that grip, step 4 is where the text challenges us to release false security.
This is a tough one.
It takes a hard look at things like wealth, status, and external validation, explicitly stating that these offer only an illusion of safety. Now, I'll be honest, that sounds incredibly enlightened, but how does the source expect us to just release our need for wealth when we, still have rent and mortgages to pay?
It's a very fair critique, but the text isn't advocating for a vow of absolute poverty or financial irresponsibility.
Well, good.
It is warning that when you rely on these external markers for your internal sense of worth, they actively stifle the unique individuality of your true essence.
Because you're putting your worth in a bank account.
When you are constantly looking outward for security, you neglect the internal fractal. The text promises that by shifting your focus inward, you reveal a constant God image.
And just to clarify for the listener, this God image isn't framed as a traditional bearded man in the sky.
Correct. In the context of this text, the God image is that divine spark, that fractal of the source we discussed earlier.
The stillness.
Yes, it is an internal anchor that remains completely unaffected by whatever external circumstances are swirling around you. If you lose your job or your status, the God image is untouched. Your rent might still be due, but your core identity hasn't been destroyed.
So if we summarize this massive deconstruction phase, we've integrated our shadows to achieve wholeness, we've dropped the heavy shield of the persona, we've audited our thick lifestyles to prove we aren't our habits, and we've stopped relying on our bank accounts to make us feel intrinsically safe.
We've chipped away the marble.
Once we've chipped all that away and found the stillness behind, how are we supposed to actually interact with the real world?
This is where the text pivots beautifully from internal deconstruction to the actual mechanics of consciousness. It commands us to embrace duality.
It's not about escaping the world.
No, it explicitly says, use your mind, use your body. It does not want us to retreat to a mountaintop and reject the physical world. It wants us to engage with it fully. But then it drops a very challenging instruction.
Oh, I know the one.
It says we must honor both pain and pleasure.
Honor pain. That goes against every human instinct we have.
It does, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text offers a staggering cosmic explanation for why we experience both suffering and joy.
What's the reason?
It states, high tension and friction created consciousness. Consciousness created you.
High tension and friction.
It argues that you were made by and for this friction. Both pleasure and pain are exactly how we were made. They aren't glitches in the simulation, they are the operating system.
Think about friction in the physical world. It requires two things rubbing against each other. It requires resistance. It requires a push and a pull. Like a violin string, it literally needs tension to make music.
That's a perfect analogy.
Without that tension, there's no spark, there's no sound, there's no consciousness. So for you listening, sitting in brutal traffic, dealing with a micromanager, or facing a massive life hurdle isn't just a random annoyance. The text is framing those mundane and severe irritations as the literal friction generating your consciousness.
Precisely because both are fundamentally necessary by design, the text provides a very clear directive on how to handle them. Do not resist. Flow.
The flow.
If pain and tension are natural mechanisms of consciousness, fighting them only creates a secondary layer of unnecessary suffering.
Flowing instead of resisting. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly difficult in practice. To really drive this home, the text offers a deeply comforting but urgent command. It repeats it 3 times in a row for maximum emphasis. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid.
That repetition is striking. It serves as a rhythmic mantra intended to break through the deeply ingrained survival-based fears of the ego and the mind.
It bypasses the logic.
And it follows that triple command with one of the most remarkable claims in the entire source material. Even death is only a reunion.
Even death is only a reunion. That completely reframes the ultimate human fear, doesn't it?
It really does.
If we truly are a fractal of the source, then passing away isn't an ending. It isn't a fading into black. It's literally just rejoining the whole. It's the micro piece going back to the macro puzzle.
Returning home.
Which brings us to the ultimate question that this entire text hinges on. Why is the puzzle set up this way in the first place?
The text finally pulls back the curtain on the creator's ultimate purpose. It tells us that the creator is simultaneously creating, evolving, expanding, experiencing, and knowing itself through its creations.
So it's not hands-off.
The creator isn't a distant observer watching us on a screen. It is actively participating in the dirt and the friction of existence.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text breaks down the specific forces at play in this cosmic evolution. First, it attributes this to what it calls the cosmic art of high tension and friction of unimaginably powerful, polar opposite cosmic forces.
That's a mouthful.
It is, but that ties directly back to what we just discussed about pain and pleasure.
Yeah.
The universe literally runs on grand opposing forces. But the second method is hands down my favorite concept in this entire deep dive.
The hide and seek.
Yes. The text calls it the enigmatic cosmic art of hide and seek.
It is a beautifully playful, almost childlike way to describe profound cosmic mechanics. The creator is essentially hiding itself within its creations, within you, within me, within everything, so that it can experience the sheer thrill of discovering itself again.
That is just mind-blowing.
It's experiencing and knowing itself by playing an eternal game of hide and seek.
And since we established at the very beginning that we are fractals of that source, our purpose is simply to mirror what the creator is doing. The text gives us a literal call to action.
And does it say?
It says, let's create, as creating is what we are. Let's evolve, as evolving is what we are. Let's expand, as expanding is what we are. Let's know ourselves, as knowing itself is what we are. And crucially, let's hide and seek, as hiding and seeking is what we are.
This brings us to a very mysterious quote introduced in the text, attributed simply to an enigmatic figure or author referred to only as MGM.
MGM.
The source doesn't give us much biographical context for who or what MGM is, but the quote they provide is the linchpin for this entire philosophy. Seek now, so you can consciously hide later.
Seek now, so you can consciously hide later. Let's break that down, because it feels like the master key to everything we've talked about today.
It suggests a profound cycle. Right now, by peeling back the layers of the false self, by doing the shadow work and dropping the persona, you are seeking.
Taking the essence.
You are seeking the stillness behind your true essence. But once you find it, once you recognize yourself as a fractal of the source, you don't just dissolve into a puddle of cosmic nothingness.
You have to live.
Exactly. The text explicitly tells you to create and express your unique individuality. So you consciously hide your divine essence back within a unique, vibrant, individualized human life.
You play the game, but this time, you know you're playing it.
Yes.
You put the social mask back on for the dinner party, or you pick up your ridiculously specific coffee order again, but you aren't fooled by it anymore. You know it's just a character you're playing.
It's a role.
You are letting your true essence, which is a fractal of the ultimate creator, shine through your unique individuality. You align with your true path because, as the text insists, you know it. You know it because your spirit knows it.
It is a remarkably empowering conclusion to a deeply demanding text. It removes the exhausting modern burden of having to invent a purpose out of thin air, and instead asks you to uncover the purpose that is already intrinsic to your spirit.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening right now, dealing with the friction of your own life? We've covered a massive amount of philosophical ground today, from deconstructing your identity to the cosmic game of hide and seek.
A lot to process.
The ultimate takeaway here is bravery. By bravely stepping into the process of stripping away your social masks, by questioning your heavily latched, rigid lifestyles, and by facing your fear of pain and friction, you aren't actually losing yourself.
The ego is losing its grip.
Exactly. It might feel terrifying because the ego is losing its grip, but you are actually uncovering the stillness behind. You are finding your absolute true essence.
And stepping into your true role.
And by doing so, you are actively participating in a grand, beautiful cosmic evolution. You are letting the source know itself through your totally unique, messy, beautiful human experience.
As we wrap up this analysis, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building directly on that incredible concept of the enigmatic cosmic art of hide and seek.
I'd love to hear it.
If the creator truly is experiencing itself through us by constantly hiding and seeking, consider your own life. Think about the moments where you have felt the most lost, the most confused, or the most profoundly disconnected from your purpose.
Those dark moments.
What if those moments aren't failures? What if they aren't mistakes in your journey at all? What if those deeply painful moments of feeling totally lost are simply you playing your role perfectly in the hiding phase of the cosmic game, setting the stage for the sheer, unparalleled joy of eventually being found again?
What a profound way to look at our darkest moments. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey today. Keep seeking, keep discovering that stillness behind, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.